In today's day and age, mental health is a huge buzzword. You hear and read about it everywhere, and it's really no surprise. According to the World Health Organization, or WHO, around 1 in 4 people around the world will experience mental health issues at some point in their lives. If you think about it, that's about 2 billion people globally who are affected by mental health conditions such as anxiety and depression. And unfortunately, that's only seemed to have gotten worse over the past couple of years as we all try to recover and normalize from a pandemic that has caused us to be more isolated, lonely, and under a lot of stress. Now, there are definitely a lot of resources out there from people who are suffering from mental health issues, including different apps, online support groups, clinics, and even faith-based organizations. And while they all contribute in some capacity to those in need, I can't help but feel that they are not solving the bigger problem. Yes, mental health is a huge and serious issue that should never be taken lightly. But I believe we should also be talking just as much, if not more, about spiritual health and the importance of healing and nurturing our soul. Indeed, I feel like a lot of the issues we deal with on a daily basis, whether that's anxiety, stress, or depression, stem from a deeper spiritual problem rather than a mental problem. It has to do with not knowing who we truly are, not knowing our purpose in life, and not having a deep and powerful connection with God. And unlike doing a bunch of medical tests or taking countless drugs, the cure to our spiritual health can only be found from within. So, in the spirit of this being Mental Health Awareness Month, let's explore this topic deeper, and let's see if we can find the cure to not only our mind, but also our soul. But I just want to take a moment to say that if you're liking this video right now, please drop a like, and if you're new, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you on board as I continue to produce more videos on spiritual teachings, poems, and guided meditations. So with that, let's start with the obvious fact that mental health is a crucial aspect of our overall well-being. It includes everything from our emotional health to our psychological health and even our social health. Growing up, I had a lot of challenges with mental health myself. I remember being an active, happy, and talkative kid that was always smiling. That is until I entered high school. During that time, my self-confidence and self-esteem dropped significantly, and that led to anxiety, loneliness, and periods of intense sadness. It took me many years to overcome these issues, but it wasn't like I sought out medical help or other traditional means of healing along the way. Rather, I began to connect more with my inner self, developing a greater understanding and awareness over time that have all shown me that my anxiety, loneliness, and sadness were not real at all. Yes, the emotions and feelings that I experienced at that time were very real. However, the root cause of these things were not real. Underlying all those issues were thoughts and feelings of not being good enough, not knowing who I was, and not understanding my purpose or role in life. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone has had or will have the same issues or life trajectory that I do. And I'm certainly, and this is important, not giving mental health or spiritual advice because I don't know everything that all of you are going through at this very moment. However, I share my own story so that you can ask yourself if your own challenges stem from a purely mental issue or from a spiritual issue as well. If you think it's the latter, then please stick around to the end of the video because I believe you might truly benefit from the things we're about to discuss. You know, it's not enough to focus solely on our mental health if we want to truly heal our soul. That's because our soul requires a deeper level of attention and care that goes beyond what any traditional mental health practice can provide. Just even the concept of the soul is so complex and multifaceted because there is no single definition that can fully capture its essence. We may all have different ideas or beliefs of what the soul really is, but in general terms, the soul can be thought of as the essence of who we are, or put simply, our true self. This true self is the part of us that transcends our physical body and connects to something much greater than even ourselves. Now, to actually heal our soul, we must first acknowledge its existence and importance. We must recognize that our soul is not just a religious or spiritual concept, but rather a fundamental aspect of our being. It is the source of our inner wisdom, creativity, and intuition. It is the part of us that gives meaning and purpose to our lives. So when we are unaware of the soul to begin with, we actually suffer from what I call poor spiritual health. One of the challenges of focusing on our soul's health in the first place is that it is often neglected in our fast-paced modern society. We live in a culture that values productivity, efficiency, and material success, often at the expense of our inner selves. As children, we are taught to prioritize external achievements over our internal growth and well-being. And as you all probably know, this becomes hard to reverse as we become adults and as we become entrenched in our way of thinking. What's perhaps worse is that traditional mental health practices often focus on treating symptoms and alleviating distress rather than addressing the root cause of all our suffering. There's a medication for anxiety, one for depression, one for this issue, one for that issue, and so on and so forth. And while medication and therapy can be helpful tools for managing mental health issues, they are just never enough to heal the wounds of our soul. You can't take a pill, for example, to get closer to God. You can't start a therapy program to awaken your soul. This is why I'm a little skeptical of people and companies that try to offer a quick fix to our problems without actually taking the time to understand or address the root cause. To truly heal our soul, we must adopt a holistic approach that considers all aspects of our being, not just our physical or mental well-being. This approach should include practices that support our emotional, psychological, social, and above all, spiritual health. Now, there are a lot of these different kinds of practices that we can do on a daily basis to improve our spiritual health. But I just wanted to focus on a few that I believe are especially important and that you can get started with right away. The first is to cultivate self-awareness. Self-awareness is the foundation of all personal growth and healing. You can't heal your soul until you know yourself. Therefore, we must learn to observe our own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors without judgment, and to identify patterns that no longer serve us. For example, I always had the limiting belief that I wasn't good enough and that I needed the validation or approval of others to make me feel whole or complete. This created immense anxiety whenever I was around people, because I would always try to do what I think they would appreciate, rather than just being myself. But when I started to practice self-awareness, I got to the root cause of this issue and realized that I needed to change my own thinking, not how others may have thought of me over time. So self-awareness really helps us understand our needs, our desires, and our values, and to make choices that align with our soul. Next, I would recommend you to practice mindfulness. Now, there's a lot of ideas out there about what mindfulness is, but it's really just the practice of being present in this current moment without judgment or distraction. You don't have to meditate for hours or practice yoga, although these practices do help, and I'm a big fan and believer of them. Mindfulness can not only help us reduce stress, improve our emotional regulation, and enhance our overall well-being, but above all, and most importantly, it can help us connect with our inner selves. So see if you can practice mindfulness today, however you do it, and notice how you become more in tune with your own soul. The third thing on my list is to cultivate meaningful relationships in life. Even though the spiritual journey is often one that we must walk alone, our social connections are essential, and I mean essential, to our soul's health. We need to cultivate relationships that are authentic, supportive, and above all, nourishing. These relationships can include our family, friends, mentors, and spiritual communities. But it's important that we set healthy boundaries and practice effective communication to maintain and grow these relationships. The fourth practice for healing our soul is to pursue our creative expressions. Now, I don't care what you say, we all have a sense of creativity, even if you are the most left brain dominant person in the world, and I've met a few of them in my life. Creativity is such a powerful tool for healing our soul that I would probably rank this at the very top of my own practices for spiritual health. It allows us to express ourselves authentically and to connect with our innermost desires and passions. It's really a shame that many societies try to turn off the side of us so that we become easy to manipulate or influence. But there's perhaps nothing better to tap into our soul's wisdom than to do creative activities like art, music, writing, and dance. For me, poetry is obviously a huge part of my creative expression, whether that's reading, writing, or speaking about it. Music is as well, and so are some deep films that take me to another place. And speaking of place, the fifth practice that I would recommend for spiritual health is to connect with nature. Now, it's no surprise why the world's greatest mystics, poets, sages, and philosophers spend so much time in nature. It's because it helps them reduce their stress, improve their moods, and connect with something far greater than themselves. Some ideas that you can practice today include taking walks in the park, hiking in the woods, or simply sitting by the ocean to connect with nature's healing energy. Nature itself is a symbol of our soul, pure, calm, and complete. So it goes without saying that when we return to nature, we return to our soul. And finally, the last and perhaps most important way that we can heal our soul is to explore spirituality. I know spirituality has a lot of different connotations and can mean different things to different people. But I think regardless of who you ask, spirituality is a deeply personal and individual journey. It involves connecting with our inner selves and ultimately connecting with the divine. Spiritual practices such as meditation, prayer, ritual, and community can all help us find meaning and purpose in our lives and to connect with something far greater than ourselves, in this instance, God. So, to sum it all up, mental health is without a doubt a crucial aspect of our overall well-being, but it is not enough to focus solely on our mind if we want to heal our soul. Our soul requires a deeper level of attention and care that goes beyond what traditional mental health practices can provide. To truly heal our soul, we must adopt a holistic approach that considers all aspects of our being, from the emotional to the spiritual. And there are countless practices we can do to get started, such as cultivating self-awareness, connecting with nature, and of course my own favorite, exploring spirituality. Ultimately, healing our soul is a lifelong journey that never ends, and there is no one-size-fits-all approach. But I'm hoping you now realize why it's so important to focus on our spiritual health and how it can significantly change our life for the better, like it did for me. By focusing on our soul's health, we can cultivate a sense of inner peace, joy, and fulfillment that not only enriches our lives, but also the lives of those around us. So the next time you hear someone talking about mental health, remember that it's more than just healing the mind. It's also about healing the soul. Trust me, if you can heal your soul, you can heal anything, because you will understand that you are health itself, and that no label, diagnosis, or thought can ever change that. So thank you for sticking around to watch this video. I really do hope that you learned a thing or two from it, and I hope that you will join me on this spiritual health journey by hitting that subscribe button and tuning in every week for all the new videos that come out, whether that's spiritual teachings like these or poems or meditations. But for now, I wish you complete and perfect health, from the mental to the spiritual and to everything in between.